Stand up. Hey, fuck, worker! Going to ask what the fuck the warrants are. You guys don't have the right. What's your name? What's your name?
Jonathan Aguilar Garcia. I'm literally a U.S. citizen. I'm literally a U.S. citizen.
What's your name? What's your name?
Christian.
What's your name?
Christian.
So ICE agents are still in Minnesota and they're still attacking U.S. citizens. The two gentlemen that they just kidnapped. I'm not going to call it arresting because they didn't arrest anybody. They don't have judicial warrants. These aren't criminal arrests. These are just masked thugs out kidnapping people. And the two people they just kidnapped are United States citizens. You know, the very people that Border Patrol and ICE do not have jurisdiction over. Yeah, that United States citizen. This right after Governor Walz just told ICE to get the fuck out of Minnesota.
Okay, so ICE is starting to harass Native Americans. A well-known Native American actress named Elaine Miles is currently telling her story of how ICE tried to take her Native ID and say it was fake and try to claim like she was an illegal immigrant or something. And this is just news because this is a more famous person, but this is happening all over America where there's Native people, like ICE pulling you over and then asking for your papers like it's 1930s Germany. And that's bad enough as it is, right? Like, because guess what? Even like 2 years ago, the thought of anyone in a uniform walking up to you because you're brown and saying, hey, show me your papers was absurd. Like, people thought that would never happen in America. But put a pin in that. The really crazy part is the obvious part, where it's like you're Native American. People with lighter skin stole this land from people that look like this woman, right?
So ICE agents are now asking American citizens for their paper, just like Kristi Noem said she wanted them to do last night. Yep. In Minneapolis, ICE agents are walking up to just random U.S. citizens and saying, show me your papers. We will ask the questions. We're at that point, guys, and that's literally what they're doing. They kept their promise within 1 day this time, and they are wandering the streets asking United States citizens to prove that they're citizens. And, of course, this is legal now because the Supreme Court said ICE agents can stop you just because the way you look.
An American teenager was taken by ICE agents right outside his own home, even after he calmly told them he could go inside and retrieve his ID to prove who he was. You heard that right. Not at the border, right in front of a residential house. In the video, the teen stays calm. He repeatedly explains that his identification is inside the home, just a few steps away. The agents refuse. They make it clear they are not going to verify his identity on the spot. Instead, they say, we'll confirm it at headquarters.
Native American was just arrested and ICE tried to deport her. What? That's right. Leticia Jacobo is a 24-year-old and was born in Phoenix. She is also a Native American who is a member of Arizona's Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community. When this 24-year-old's mother, Erica Burns, went to the jail to pick up her daughter after she was arrested for allegedly driving with a suspended license, the jail told her no, they were unable to release her because ICE was on the way. This was understandably shocking news, and Erica didn't know what to say. Why was ICE coming to pick up her daughter? To deport her. A Native American, who she asked the Polk County Jail, how can they be deporting my 24-year-old daughter whenever she is a Native American? Polk County's response was, we aren't deporting her, we're just holding her because ICE is coming to pick her up.
So ICE is detaining Native Americans now. Not immigrants, not undocumented individuals. Native Americans! People who are quite literally indigenous to this continent. So I guess my question here is, where the fuck do you intend on sending Native Americans?
DACA genuinely wants a civil war, and that's why Trump's acting the way he is. They are trying to stoke the flames and get people to react so that he has the authority to declare martial law. And in that instance, he could legally suspend due process and basically just hold people as prisoners if they're a threat to the stability of the United States. And we're already seeing instances of this happen now, like transgender people are unable to get passports, a lot of them are unable to leave the country. Leftist activists have been put on actual terror watch lists. Who knows, I might be on one. Here's a post in the MAGA Facebook group about civil war, which again, they want. They want a purge because they want the authority to legally use all these weapons they've been collecting to go out and take out their enemies. They want to take out people of color, queer people, trans people, any minority, outspoken leftists, or race traitors, which I've been called numerous times. And it's a lot of the people who have Confederate flags in their yard that want to recreate that Confederacy. So they have the legal authority and moral authority to take out their enemies, to people.
The plan that Trump has is martial law, and we need to normalize the conversation around this so we don't fall into the trap. He wants violence. That's why they're using ICE officers, yes, to deport brown people because they want some sort of white, racist state. They want to get rid of all the brown immigrants. They want all the South Africans, but get rid of the brown people. That's what they're doing. But they're throwing their bodies in front of people. Jonathan Ross positioned himself in front of Renee's car. Wasn't supposed to do that, not trained to do that. Or are they? And of course, then he shoots her, murders her point blank. It's a tragedy. And they want this fight, but I don't think they were prepared to murder a white woman and understand the ramifications from that. Now, everyone's life has value. Everyone's got life, liberty, and should have the pursuit of happiness and be able to protest or drive their car without fear of being assassinated like that. And yet, because the visual is a white Christian woman, who, by the way, if you don't think she's Christian because she's lesbian, that just shows where you are in your sort of evolution about what really matters in this world. But that's what they're doing. They did it at the Target, right, where there's two Latino guys that were filming ICE agents, and one of the ICE officers walked quickly in order to get in the way of this other brown guy, and in doing so, then arrested the brown guy. It's akin to you running into someone's fist, like just running into their fist, and then saying that they punched you. That's what they want. Reckless chaos. And then they can claim martial law when the people don't accept it, and then create this like police state and say, well, we have a domestic war happening here. We have domestic terrorism. We can't possibly hold midterm elections in the middle of this domestic terrorism. So that's it. Make sure everybody knows the game plan as you watch it play out.
Now, let me share with you what a fact that I think really is relevant here. So authoritarian regimes usually don't fear opposition. In fact, they want opposition so they can become authoritative like they wish. What they don't like is being exposed. Now, let me try to break this down, because we have been seeing a disturbing trend of ICE agents and ICE goons now picking on American citizens off the streets, pulling them out of their cars. American citizens whose only crime is how they look, and maybe because of how they speak, their accents, And now we are asking a very essential question. What happens when the law stops protecting the people and it starts testing them? And what happens when fear becomes the policy and so brutality becomes the tool? Because across America right now, serious warnings are being issued. And they're not to immigrants anymore, if you observe keenly, but they are now warnings to American citizens themselves. The question many people are asking is simple, but actually terrifying. Is America being pushed? Is America being pushed deliberately towards martial law? Because what we are witnessing with these ICE agent situations does not look like law enforcement exactly. It looks like provocation of American citizens into an uprising, into some kind of fight back, so then they can get a chance to declare martial law. Now, I want us to listen to this American scholar, Professor David K. Johnston, and we'll be back with a good analysis of this situation. Stay tuned.
David K. Johnston, I want to ask you about what's happening in Minnesota with ICE agents and the aggressive double down they're doing. They're going to send even more agents. I call them agents. I don't know what they are. I think they're thugs. I think there's no, they're frustrated linebackers from high school who couldn't make the college team, and now they are getting great economic incentive to join this undertrained, if trained at all, group of people who are being turned loose on the streets of America. But this Minnesota move to sue to stop ICE from being there, I wonder if you could touch on that and that overall situation with ICE.
Sure. First thing your audience should know is that I spent a lot of time studying police tactics and strategy. I've even written for police publications about these issues. And No, these guys aren't trained. They may have had whatever number of weeks that they claim to have had training with, but simply watching them try to take somebody down tells you that they don't know what they're doing. There are ways to take people down that can be very effective. These guys are goons. I think that's the best word to use for them. And it's clear that they have been taught, and this will be very important in the court case, that they are to have no regard for anyone or anything. We have cell phone videos, not just from Minnesota, but elsewhere, where they say things like, "We don't care. You're lucky." There's a pastor who we don't have cell phone video was said to him, but he says he was told in Minnesota, "Are you afraid now?" And we said no. They handcuffed him. They threw him in the back of an SUV. They said, "Are you afraid now?" And he goes, "No, I'm not afraid of you." And according to him, they said, "Well, you're white, so it wouldn't have been much fun anyway," which carries the clear implication that they are torturing people. And we've had some people describe things that legally qualify as torture while they were in custody. And I think the strategy here is incredibly obvious. We want to provoke an attack on ICE so that we can take much more serious steps like declaring martial law. That's the goal here. And Donald wants to remove non-white people from this country. That's just eminently clear. I did the top news program in South Africa, or taped in advance for it the other day. And it was one of the things we talked about is why is Trump sending a known racist man with well-described fascist views and a long history of attacking black people to be the U.S. ambassador to South Africa? And one of the questions I raise is, why would the South African government accept his credentials? You don't have to accept an ambassador. You can just tell him to turn around and get on the plane and go. But it is really crucial that people behave peacefully. A core tenet of what Gandhi taught the world, what Martin Luther King tried as best he could to replicate, is that nonviolence doesn't mean passivity. It means you don't get provoked into taking actions against the government. You have to allow the outrageous conduct of the government to reach human hearts. And the price for that can be very high. And you can go back and read the news accounts now that we have things like newspapers.com. When the decision was made to march on the salt works, literally from sunset to sundown, men stepped forward knowing they were going to be beaten brutally by British police or military uniformed Brits. And there were women there to provide comfort. Some of these people, they just got bloodied. Some of them suffered concussions and broken skulls. I hope we don't have to get to that level of violence, but we're going to have to record. Thank goodness we have cell phones, and distribute to the world what is happening here. And if you see somebody and you're in a demonstration somewhere who wants to throw a rock or something, stop them. Do not do what Trump wants you to do, which is to attack these law enforcement agents. Much as these goons aren't trained, much as they are eager to provoke, the utter disrespect they have for everyone else, don't take the bait. It's hard to do that. I recognize that. And I've been to more demonstrations since 1968 than I can ever remember. And I always knew in California that county sheriff, local police, things would probably go okay. The minute Ronald Reagan's California Highway Patrol showed up, you knew there was going to be violence because they would provoke it. And I saw them do this again and again. And by golly, that's
this
what
crew
Trump
feels like.
trying
It
to
feels like the CHP, to which you referred from back then. Feels like them, with a multiple attached to it. I mean, these are really aggressive tactics. I mean, 7, 8 guys to, take down some Target store guy. You got that video? I keep asking these guys in the private chat to put up video pictures, but they're not listening. There are. Can you just put up the videos of? I wanted to quickly share them with the videos of the takedown, as David's speaking about the ICE agents. But what I did really get struck by is something that June even referenced, which is that while the expressed intent And it does seem as though, I mean, and you see these guys dragging people out of cars, and this is just a, again, there's a brutality here. While the expressed intent is directed toward this immigrant community, Somalis, Latinos, etc., what Donald Trump has done and this regime has done with this immense number of people who are part of this Department of Homeland Security ICE crusade is created this army of those who will show up on American streets, and they're intimidating, and they can do everything from chill out an election, right? This is the Target store takedown to which I was referring.
Right.
They can suppress voter turnout. They can do any number of things, David, that it would seem to me can all serve the interests of this regime.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the biggest problems here is the absolute failure of elected Republican leaders to say, this is not America, this is wrong. And that needs to be an important focus of people all across the country. If you have a Republican member of Congress or a Republican senator, you should find when they're going to meet next with their constituents, if they're not too afraid to do that, which many of them are. And the first question ought to be, why have you not denounced the separating of nursing mothers literally from their child, the arrests of American citizens, ICE agents saying, we don't care. And we need to make pariahs of these people who will not stand up. And to those who listen to this show every week, I'm going to repeat something. I hope that there are new people who hear it. More than 1 million people died for the idea of the United States of America. And if you're an office holder who's afraid to speak up because you're going to get primaried or voted out, you're worse than a coward. You are beneath contempt. You're violating your oath of office. And I call you people Quisling Republicans. Quisling was the Norwegian collaborator when the Nazis controlled Norway in World War II, and who was subsequently tried and executed, as he well should have been. But don't take the bait. Do not attack these people, no matter how hard it is.
You're saying don't take the bait. You don't get into a physical confrontation with them.
That's
but
right.
Let me just ask you.
That enables them to say, we need to have martial law or take away your rights temporarily. Donald has said in the past, he's talked about suspending habeas corpus. And habeas corpus, the right to be presented to a judge, is listed in the Constitution not as a right, but a privilege. A privilege. Privileges can be taken away. Lincoln did at the beginning of the Civil War. He had no legal authority to do it because only Congress can do it. Congress later gave him that power. I don't think Trump can get that power, but if he simply exerts this power, think how long it would take to get through the courts to get this Supreme Court to take up that issue.
Sure, and look at what they're already doing, David. These people who are detained, some of them are American citizens. They're shipping them off without any kind of habeas corpus, as you've just described.
And they're denying them medicines. I mean, what if you're on a medication? I'm not a young man, so I'm on several medications I have to have every day. What if there are repeated examples of people who were denied insulin if they require an insulin rejection or heart medications?
This entire detention center. This entire detention center thing is replete with examples of people dying. I mean, they're just not getting a lot of ink because of other stuff going on. Ryan is asking and saying the problem with these lawsuits, thanks for the €10 super chat. The problem with these lawsuits is they're likely DOA because of the supremacy clause in the Constitution. Can you speak to that?
I think at the district court or trial level, you're highly likely to get judges to issue restraining orders, temporary restraining orders followed by permanent injunctions. Then the problem, as the New York Times brilliantly pointed out Sunday, is you get to the Court of Appeals where about 1 in 3 judges were appointed by Trump, and they've been ruling with him, 95% of the time, overturning district court judges. And then when you get to the Supreme Court, well, they can say yes, no, and delay forever as the majority wishes. But it's necessary, I think, as a strategy. And I think Keith Ellison, whom I know, the Attorney General of Minnesota, he's a very, very legally savvy guy with a very smart team of people. And I think you will see them pursue this in smart ways. Secondly, federal officers are not immune from state prosecution. And that's why in pretty much unprecedented in my history, at least, the FBI has been told to cut out local law enforcement from the investigation into the killing of Ms. Good. But Keith Ellison's made it clear that he or the district attorney in Hennepin County, or whatever the relevant county is, will be going after these people. The sheriff of Philadelphia County, which is the same jurisdiction as the city of Philadelphia, and the district attorney have also both said, you pull this stuff here, we're going to arrest you, we're going to convict you, we're going to see you off to prison. And the states have authority to do this. The police also don't have to cooperate with these things, which they should not be doing, and that apparently has stopped in New York City since Eric Adams is no longer mayor. People are not powerless in this. But it really is crucial. Do not attack these guys. Film them. And by the way, if you happen to see an incident, model the girl who filmed the death of George Floyd. There are all these videos that, they go all over, they look at the ground, people are screaming foul words. No, don't hold the camera steady as can be a rock, capture what's going on, don't interfere with the audio material by talking, and then distribute the material.
Yeah, the smack talking the ICE agents clearly doesn't have any effect. It only just riles them up more. So there's no virtue in that. It just seems that the aggression is truly a cornerstone of what they're doing. They really are shock troops, David. And they're there to cow a populace. And
well, when we finally get some state prosecutions of these people, there are certain things I assure you are going to come out, and you could argue this is speculation. It's just 59 years of experience as a journalist. They're going to turn out to be wife beaters, people have committed felony assault or at least been accused of it, people who have criminal records. I will not be the least bit surprised if 100 or more of the ICE agents turn out to be pardoned insurrectionists from January 6th.
Well, this is the thing that we said after that pardoning. You'll remember we said Trump is essentially saying, if you commit violence in my name or for my cause, I got your back. I will pardon you. And that's exactly what has happened. And in turning the Proud Boys and the 3%ers and these people who are J6ers, who the violent J6ers loose on the streets of America, now uniformed, now armed. You've got people who have really an allegiance to Trump and not much more.
If you look, Mark, at the videos from the many different people who shot them of the murder of Miss Good, there are a couple of striking things. One of them is that the car is clearly pulling away. Another
Tony,
is
go ahead and put that up there. Thank you.
She's not a troublemaker. She says, I'm not happy with you, dude. That she is in her neighborhood. This isn't somebody who came, as they claim, paid protester. I've yet to run into these people. And traffic is trying to move out of there. It's unfortunate Minneapolis police, although there are only about 700 cops in Minneapolis. That's such a low crime rate city that they only have about 700 cops.
There are 2,000 ICE agents there, just for
right. Oh, plus they're apparently sending as many as 2,000 more.
That's exactly right.
She appears to be waiting in this icy condition where cars slide for people to go by. Because if you move your wheels at the wrong moment, you slide into the next vehicle and get a $6,000 repair bill. And also, he's holding at one point a cell phone type camera in one hand and a gun in another. That's not what you do. If you think you have to use your weapon, you use both hands to steady the weapon. These are short-barreled weapons. You minimize your position, and you seek cover, and you fire once or twice, and then you assess. You don't go bang, 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 and then go effing bitch, which is, that's what's going to kill that guy, by the way, in front of a jury of Minnesota citizens. Even if he gets it removed to federal court, once a jury hears that will be the biggest fight in pretrial motions for his criminal trial, is that it's not fair to include what he said after he shot her. And how the judge in the trial rules on that will be absolutely crucial to that case.
You know, David K. Johnston, it's just striking that these stops, these interdictions of all sorts, they're not accompanied by any warrant. They're not accompanied by any probable cause. They're explain to me how in America these kinds of situations and face-offs with people who live in Minnesota, people who live in California, people who live in any state in the union could possibly go down.
This is because we no longer live in the American Republic. We live in Donald Trump's dictatorship.
So warrants aren't required. Warrants
not by Donald Trump. Now later things will be thrown out. Cases will be dismissed. People will be returned to the country, hopefully, if they haven't died in some place like Sikot, which is a death camp. Let's be clear. It's a death camp. But all those things take time, and the process takes time. And the way to speed this along is that people need to really go after the Republican, especially senators who are up for election this year, and Republican House members. People need to engage in lawful but nonviolent tactics. So we've had, for example, people make noise at night outside of hotels where the ICE agents are staying. No criminal offense there, and the Minneapolis police did not act to stop that from happening. Local police need to be told firmly by their leaders, and we certainly saw this in the Minneapolis police chief's public appearance, that we're not going to cooperate in this stuff. I think they should be told, you're to watch, and when you see illegal acts by ICE officers, you're to act against them. You are to arrest them on state charges. Even if they don't hold up, there needs to be pushback to Trump about this. Now, I just saw a headline. I just came from teaching, so I didn't have time to read the full story, but apparently during that 2-hour interview with the New York Times, they looked at some of the video with him, and Trump expressed some different viewpoints. I'd certainly like to see that. Of course, Donald is famous for saying the opposite in a single sentence of two things.
Sure. I mean, I think what you're talking about is that when looking at these, he sort of suggested, that didn't seem right, or that doesn't. You're suggesting that. I think this is what you're talking about.
I don't know, because I only saw the head about it before we came on the air. But Donald lives in a bubble. All presidents live in a bubble. You get outside that bubble, if like Lyndon Johnson or even Richard Nixon, you have 12 newspapers put in the Oval Office every day, and you pick them up and you take a look at them. Trump doesn't do that. So he's really inside a bubble that insulates him.
Sure.
And Americans need to find ways to get out a louder message about this. I mean, what Trump is doing on an international scale, is he is making us a pariah nation. He's doing to us what Netanyahu is doing to Israel, and what is going on in several other countries around the world. We're attacking our enemy, our friends. We're making love to our enemies. We're talking about invading other countries, seizing their assets, stealing their oil, and that the Republicans are just afraid to act. That's the most troubling thing. You know, my track record so far on Donald is 1,000%. I'm batting perfectly, but my track record on the Republican leadership and the American voters is terrible. I had a much higher opinion of them than they deserved.
They're scared, David. They're scared of physical repercussions. They're scared of physical violence. They're scared of Trump supporters. They're scared of MAGA Nation. The pizza, knock knock, we know where you live move works. It's being done on judges, on legislators. This is an intimidated GOP crew.
Yeah, well, be that as it may, be more like Mark Kelly, be more like Liz Cheney. Whatever I think of Liz Cheney's politics, and that not much, I respect her because she stood up for the right thing. And we need to shame these people. If they are subject to shame, that can be very effective. One of the new things that's happening with this announcement, they're going to go door to door, which is what the Nazis did to find Jews. is apparently there. Well, not apparently. I've seen 2 videos of ICE agents pushing in a door and coming into people's houses without a warrant. If a federal agent or any law enforcement agent shows up at your door, do not open the door. If they say they have a warrant, say, hold it up to the window and let me read it. Slip it under the door or through the transom if it has one, or the mail slot. But do not, under any circumstances, open the door. And the first thing you should do is call local police and say, there are armed men trying to break into my house. They're right there, right now. They have guns and they're trying to break in the front door of my house, and give your address, because that will bring the local police.
And it has the additional virtue of being true. And the reality is that we don't know that they're actual ICE agents. I mean, again, this has been reported over and over in different instances yeah, go ahead.
I have one other suggestion for people who are watching this. Call your local police chief and your mayor, whether you live in a little town like I do, 38,000 people, or a big city, and ask if police officers are what they're being trained about dealing with illegal ICE behavior, especially breaking into people's houses and businesses. Police officers locally need to get some training. Federal supremacy is not a right to run roughshod over the Constitution. And if ICE agents grab somebody, one of the things local police can do is say, you got to identify yourselves to us, because we don't know that you're a group of rapists and sadists who plan to torture this person, and hold them up and make a record as local cops. Record these people. Everything that you can lawfully do to interfere with them, you should do, but don't physically attack them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a confrontation you'll always lose. I want to pivot to the Trumpian dictatorial move toward the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. I see America as historically a safe place for investors. It's a political stability that is envied in many parts of the world. And as a result, it oftentimes brings investment here to this stable culture and politics that is oftentimes hard to find in some of the high wire acts of investment. When I was in Ukraine for a wedding. This is now a while ago, 15 years ago, I guess. And I was being pitched on an investment there. And they were really, strong kind of returns on the investment. You could see why, because it's such a high wire act. And that high wire act doesn't exist in this typically historically more stable place. So I'm getting to the fact that if you start leaning on the Fed and Donald Trump decides what the interest rate should be, and he's just another tin pot dictator like all the rest of them, America quickly descends, I think, into that world.
Oh, we're rapidly heading there already. I mean, the biggest beneficiaries of what Trump is doing are President Xi in China, who wants to have larger, greater China, including taking back Taiwan, the island of Formosa. We don't have any moral standing anymore to say you can't do that. Putin, who wants to put back the old Soviet Union's territory, at least. And that's been clear for 25 years. And the reason he wasn't stopped when he should have been in 2014 is the Republicans wouldn't let Barack Obama do what should have been done at the time.
All right. So for many months, Donald Trump has framed immigration as invasion and as the problem, and as the problem he's trying to tackle with these ICE agents situation and going on. But history teaches something important. And this is what I want us to take note of. Authoritarian crackdowns rarely stop at the first target. They often expand. And this is what we are seeing. We are now seeing disturbing reports of videos showing ICE agents operating with growing impunity, growing brutality, people being pulled out of their cars, being taken from the streets. And these people, they're being detained without clear cause. And these people, they happen to be legal American citizens. And, we're seeing people being stopped on the streets based on appearance, on accents, on suspicion alone, just being suspected. And that's profiling. Homes are allegedly being entered without warrants of, search or arrest warrants. Due process is now just being treated as an option, as optional. And this is not what a functional democracy, an exemplary democracy is supposed to be seen like. What is almost alarming is that this is no longer confined to undocumented immigrants. Remember at the beginning, it was about undocumented immigrants. American citizens are increasingly being caught in this net or even being targeted. Veterans, workers, and sadly, even disabled Americans. Citizens whose only crime appears to be how they look or how they speak. And this is how boundaries slowly get erased. First they tell the public it is only immigrants or undocumented immigrants. Then it now becomes, or it moves to, it's only suspects. And eventually now it could be anyone. And that's now what we are seeing, because it's not about immigrants anymore, because we have seen people claiming to have been abducted, to, even videos of Americans being, confronted. And this is not security. This is a kind of conditioning. And let's be very clear about the danger here. And let's not sugarcoat anything. Many legal scholars and activists and civil rights groups are warning Americans not to take the bait. And this is what we have seen in this video by, Professor David K. Johnston, because provocation is the strategy of this regime. When heavily armed agents, ICE agents or goons, behave aggressively, unlawfully, and publicly, they are trying to trigger a reaction from Americans. And what is this reaction? A punch, a shove, or even a riot, something that can be framed as chaos by the administration. And once chaos is declared, the response is very predictable here. Emergency powers, military deployment. Of course, we have seen such already, in the past, with this regime already, where the army has been sent to the streets, the National Guard has been sent to the streets, and this then is going to lead to suspension of normal civil liberties, and this is basically the classic path to martial law. So Trump does not need resistance. He just needs an excuse to declare martial law, to send the army to the streets, And this is why the advice being shared is urgent and consistent. Do not physically confront them. That is what Professor David K. Johnston is trying to say. Film them courageously, document everything, hold your camera steadily, let the world see what is happening, but do not fight back. Once again, I say authoritarian systems, they fear exposure more than opposition and resistance. So I'd say after watching this video by this white professor, you ask yourself, does this look like what we are seeing with the ICE agents? Does it look like a professional, accountable law enforcement? Or does it look like unrestrained power? And Americans are now openly questioning whether these ICE agents are properly trained, properly supervised, or simply protected because they operate under the name Donald Trump. I mean, they're breaking the law for Donald Trump or under Donald Trump for his benefit. Are they then protected under that political shield? When accountability disappears, then abuse becomes the routine. And this is where the racial dimension also cannot be ignored. Trump's rhetoric has consistently signaled a vision of America that is narrower, that's whiter, you know, and more exclusionary. Immigration is not the end goal. Immigration is not the end goal. Perhaps it is the entry point, because when Donald Trump moved to office, first of all, what he declared is there were no immigrants. There were no, asylum seekers to America. But then, ironically, he himself went ahead to sanction or to help white people, white so-called fake asylum seekers from South Africa. Remember the white asylum seekers from South Africa? He even helped them to move to America and settle, despite him declaring that America wasn't going to take any immigrants. So it pointed at one thing. He can loosen, the tightrope when white people are the ones involved. Because looking at the case of people who really needed that help in Africa, for example, there were not those white privileged people from South Africa. Now, perhaps the people suffering in the Congo and in Sudan and in many different places in Africa, but not those privileged white people. But he was willing to take them because they were whites. They were like him. If that doesn't tell you what Trump is trying to imply here, then I don't know what does make sense, here. So history shows us that once a state, normalizes dehumanization, it does not reverse course voluntarily. It escalates until resistance now becomes almost impossible. So this kind of moment demands from Americans discipline, not panic, awareness, not violence, cameras and not fist or blows to these people. If America slides into martial law, it will not be because people resisted oppression. It will be because power successfully, provoked a justification. So the world is watching and history is recording. And what happens next will define whether fear wins or the truth does. Yeah, so that's my take on this. Do share with me your comments, your thoughts in the comment section. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it. Subscribe to this channel if you like this kind of content, and I'll see you in the next video.